Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jonah from Discover, and today we are going to be talking to David. David, how are you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Jonah? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm doing great. Always stoked to do an event with you. I know we did one as part of Discover Fest, and it was super awesome. I got really into drones a few years back, so it was cool. It's
Awesome.
so cool to see how the space has changed and
Yep.
evolved. And I should say, I got really into them, crashed one, and then have been terrified since. But I'm working on getting another one.
Nice.
But yeah, just to make sure everyone's in the right space, knows the expectations and how the event is going to go today. If you are here, please hop in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, something you're excited to learn, maybe how you heard about David or how you heard about Discover. And if you're watching the replay, please hop in the comments as well and let us know all of those things. We do come back, believe it or not, and read those comments and love to answer them and talk to y'all. And if David is moving too fast or you have to get up away from the computer at some point, don't fret. There will be a replay available. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on the Discover event page, and it'll also be emailed to you along with the course offer, which we will talk about a little bit later today. Getting a few people tuning in here, so I think we're ready to go. Like I said, we are talking to David Young, and we are going to be talking about how to build a seven-figure online course business without being an expert in your niche. A little background on David, or little background on the event. David is going to show you how he started an online course business in a niche where he had zero experience and turned it into a seven-figure business without ever becoming an expert. And David, just for everyone who's tuning in and maybe doesn't know you, can you give a little background on yourself before we dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for the intro, Jonah. Like you mentioned, my name is David Young. I typically am doing stuff about drones, so that's been kind of my field, if you will, for the last 5 years or so. I started an online course school called Drone Launch Academy, and I'll show you all that a little bit later in this presentation, walk you through it a little bit. But we're not here to talk about drones today. What I'm here today to talk to you about is how I built Drone Launch Academy. Over the last few years, I've been asked a lot about how to build online courses and what people should do, marketing, what if I'm not good at this? And I know a common struggle people feel is they feel unqualified to teach something, or they're like, hey, listen, I don't have some type of super knowledgeable area, or some area that I'm super knowledgeable in, some type of expertise, but I'm interested in building some passive income online. So I had that same problem, and again, I'll get into more details later. I had the same problem where I started a platform about drones, and I had never touched a drone. And even to this day, I'm not really considered an expert in drones. Of course, I've absorbed a lot of knowledge as I've gone, but I don't have expertise in a lot of the things our schools teach about. And I'll show you how I get around that and how I'm still able to build a business, and how I was able to build it to a seven-figure business in the last few years. So I'm excited to dive into that. Couple fun stats. We did the Teachable Creator Challenge, I think in 2019. We finished in like the top, I don't remember what it was. I tried to find it. I think we finished in the top three or four. That trading with Terry girl, she crushed me, but we finished
She's
towards the top.
crushing it all across the board.
I know. And then we were, at least last time Teachable posted stats, I think it was for 2020, we were in the top like 58 creators on the platform, and I think you guys have over like 100,000 members or users, so that puts us in the top like 0.005% or something like that. But
Yeah.
we've worked really hard. I've like dedicated my life the last 5 years to like figuring out online courses, how to market them, how to sell them, how to make it work. And I do it full time now. So I'm excited to share this knowledge with everyone. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I love to talk about this stuff, teach it, help people with it. So I'm excited to be here.
Love it. Well, and it looks like we got quite a few people tuning in here, David. I know you got a lot to share with us, so I'm going to get out of the way and hand it over to you.
All right, cool. Well, you already know a little bit about me, what I've done. I can see the chat. So if you guys have any questions as you go, throw them in the chat. I might ask some questions. Hopefully you guys can answer and respond. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so if I ask something, I'll kind of wait a little bit to see everybody. But if you're ready to learn about some online courses, let me know. Say yes in the chat. Also, if you want to give a little blurb about yourself, just say like, either thinking about building an online course or course platform, or I already started building and I've got some revenue. Just kind of give you an idea of where you're at so I know the best way to tailor my talk to you. But the main thing I'm going to do, as we go through today, let me walk you through the flow. I figured it's easier to take you in sort of chronological order of my journey. Started back in 2016, and I'm going to talk through some challenges that I had, and I think they're probably fairly common to all new course creators, people building an online business. Talk about how I got over those challenges, things that helped me along the way, and a framework that I kind of came up with. I tried to put some initials to it so you could remember it, called the NID framework that I use, and it allows me to create an online course platform without ever me specifically being the expert or the one who has to teach. And that might sound confusing, and I'll explain in a minute. I think it'll make more sense. But it's just an alternative option. Like if you are the expert and you know how to do everything else, great. Maybe it's one less thing you have to get a partner on. But the problem with that is it limits a lot of people. They think, I can only teach in areas where I already have expertise or I already know. And that narrows the scope of what they think they can do and the options they have for building an online business. And that's really not true. You can pick any niche you're interested in and build an online course business in it without becoming an expert, and we're going to dive into that. But that's where I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you chronologically through 2016. We'll speed up. We'll get to today. I'm going to share with you my revenue numbers every year, my profit numbers everywhere. I like to be transparent. I hate when people just kind of are vague. I want to be able to inspire you to know what's possible, talk about my challenges, how I got over them. And we also have a free course for you at the end that I am putting together right now, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. I'm going to try to look at some of these, develop classes, design 2 courses, course people, cool. Okay, so let's journey back to 2016, right? I used to be an accountant. I'm a CPA, or I was a CPA. Used to be an accountant. I was working for the FBI. I got recruited by the FBI out of college. I did stuff for them internally around like financial planning, a lot of Excel all day. Then I went and became a forensic accountant and was doing that for a while. And you would probably think, oh man, this guy's going to make a course on forensic accounting or working with the FBI, right? Because that was my expertise. That was my niche. But that's not what happened. So while I was at the FBI, a friend of mine that was on my team, he's a former Army guy, he was talking to me about drones. And he's like, oh man, did you see this was a cool like racing drone thing? I was like, that was really interesting. And I started looking at it a little bit, and I noticed somewhere that it said you had to have a pilot's license in order to fly drones commercially, like for money on the side. And I was always kind of entrepreneurial, trying to do little side hustles here and there. I had done some little accounting gigs kind of on the side because, as you can imagine, the government does not pay super well. And I was married, I had a few kids. My wife was a nurse, and she was working less and less. I don't know if you guys know this, but the more and more kids you have, the harder and harder it is for both spouses to work and keep money, because you either have to pay for childcare or somebody's got to stay home and you need a bigger house. So we had all that going on. We lived in the Washington, D.C. area, so it was also expensive to live. So this is kind of what I was dealing with. I'd always done some side gigs because I thought it was fun. And then I saw this thing about, we can fly drones for money. It was new. It was like 2015. I thought, that sounds cool. Let me check that out. I actually had my pilot's license. So when I was a kid, I'm not going to go super deep into it. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pilot. My first year of college, I went to school to be a pilot, to like be a commercial pilot. Realized I was terrified of flying planes, claustrophobic, didn't like being in there, thought I was going to die all the time. I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. I got my pilot's license and then bailed out the next year. Never flew a plane again. Never touched it. Just walked away. And that was like 10 years, 15 years prior. Okay. So I was like, well, I still got a pilot's license. Technically, it's still active. So I could do this. So I started looking into it. I found out that there was a big, lengthy paperwork process you had to go through in order to fly drones commercially. Even if you had the pilot's license, you had to like create this document from scratch. It was a big pain in the butt. So I noticed there were a few businesses that were like helping people with this paperwork process, and I thought, you know what, I bet I could do that. And I've been a long time follower of Pat Flynn, and we'll talk more about him later. Is anybody in here familiar with Pat Flynn? Let me know, yes or no, in the chat if you've heard of Pat Flynn. But Pat Flynn, he runs smartpassiveincome.com. I had listened to his podcast before. Always found it like super inspiring. That's Teachable. Yeah. I always found it super inspiring. I was like, oh man, this is great. I need to figure out how to make some passive income. And I was like, I gotta figure this out. I used to listen to his podcast all the time. Or some, internet income. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw a Squarespace site together real quick. I'm gonna throw a form up. I'm just gonna collect some information. I'm gonna plug it into my template, and that I know works because I had already spent time developing. I'm going to submit it to the FAA, and I'll manage that process for people. Well, I did that. I threw a couple Google ads up, and it was just right place, right time. I started making a lot of money filing paperwork for people with the FAA. So fast forward 3 months, I made probably like 20 or 30 grand doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I was making more money doing that than I was working at the FBI. And then the FAA is like, oh, we're changing it. You actually now have to take a standardized test at a testing center if you want to fly drones commercially. We're going to have our own like pilot's license for drones and all that stuff. You don't need this paperwork process anymore. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Well, that kind of sucks because that was my entire business model. So I was like, all right, I need to pivot. Time to get into the online course game. I'm going to make an online course about this test, right? I didn't know anything about it, right? Still, the only thing I had done is I've flown, I think my dad got me a toy helicopter for Christmas, and that was my experience flying drones. And I had gotten my private pilot's license, not even a commercial or anything. I just passed my private pilot's license test like 15 years prior. That was it. That was my only expertise in the area, in the niche, was flying a toy helicopter, and having been a pilot, I had the bare minimum flight hours you needed to get a pilot's license, and that's it. I flew one time after I got my pilot's license, never touched a plane again. So it wasn't like I was this pro pilot guy. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like Googling stuff. I was trying to figure out what course platform to put it on. I didn't even know what a course platform was. I went to like Upwork and was like, hey, can somebody help me build this online course? And I got a bunch of these people being like, I can build you out like a PowerPoint course and it's going to cost like 50 grand. And I'm like, no, this is not what I'm looking for. I couldn't figure out what exactly I was looking for and trying to do. And honestly, this is actually when I stumbled across Teachable. This was 2016. And I was like, oh, this looks like what I could use. And I realized you like put videos up. So I started kind of figuring it out. And then my problems were, I don't have any credibility in this space, right? I'm not anybody, right? So I could try to make this course, this like prep course, but like who's going to take it? You know, is it going to work? I don't know. I just knew there's a lot of demand kind of in this area. It was a growing area. Well, this is where my NID framework comes into play. So let me tell you what NID stands for. I was going to try to have my iPad here so I could write on it, but StreamYard did not love the iPad, so I'll just write it down here. So N, if you guys want to write this down, N is for network. I is for instruction. I can't spell. It's a good thing you can't see me. Instructional design, like course creation, right? These are the things you need to be good at if you're not the expert. And we'll dive into all these. And D is distribution, and that encompasses a lot of stuff. Distribution. All right. I got my nice little Drone Launch notepad here. I hope you can see that. N for network. I for instructional design. D for distribution. I'll hold that up later again. So this is where it comes into play. I was like, I don't have any credibility. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this works. I got some documents so I could figure out how to like put the course together, what they were going to test on. But I was at a drone conference. A drone conference was coming to DC. I was like, I'm going to sign up for this. I'm going to go. I'm going to try to see what's there. I networked with a few people. I just happened to meet an Air Force colonel who used to be in charge of all weather operations at the Pentagon for the entire Air Force, weather operations. He was trying to get into the drone space. I ran into an attorney. He was also a partner at his law firm, and he was doing drone stuff. I was terrified of both of these guys. They're both like top of their career, really polished, put together. I was like mid-20s, worked for the government, knew nothing about drones, and I'm there like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start this company called Drone Launch. And I had nothing, So I was trying to be brave, I get out there, I'm networking with them. I somehow say to them, I said, listen, I want to make this prep course. I would love to have your name in it, right? This is after I didn't lead with this, but I started, I got to know them, got their contact information. And I remember typing this email out, and I just laid it out for them. Hey, listen, because I didn't really have much money to pay him either. I was like, listen, I will try to write all the content. I'll try to do all the heavy lifting. If I can just like have you read the scripts, like proofread them to like check off that, yes, I agree with that. This is correct, right? And this is what I would say. This is kind of like, what I would kind of, they can edit it and modify it, since they're the experts. If you'll do these scripts and, you'll be on camera for me, I will put you all over our website, give you as much free publicity as I can. And I'm trying to think about like what's in it for them. Well, they're trying to get established in the drone space. I can at least try to give them some, like, oh, I'm an instructor in a course. right? Because everything was kind of new. So they both said yes miraculously. I like sent the email like praying like, oh, please God, let them say yes. And they both were like, sure, that sounds good. So I had to do the heavy lifting of trying to put it all together. I'm like researching stuff online like crazy, trying to find different FAA publications. Well, I get kind of like a rough outline and kind of some rough content together. We film it. I think it's pretty decent. Oh yeah, during this time, I was like, I try to boost my credibility a little bit. So I went and passed some tests, some FAA certified ground instructor test. I bought a prep course. I studied for it. I took that test. I barely passed, just so I could slap that on my name to like, again, be a little bit more credible. But again, that had nothing to do with drones. It was just about like actual pilot stuff. So I get that. And we teach this course. I spend 6 months filming it in my basement. I buy camera equipment. I went all out. I paid money to have like motion graphic designers. I did a bunch of stuff, right? I gave these guys, I gave one of them a $200 gift card to a restaurant as a thank you. And the other guy, I ran out of money, so I couldn't give him anything except like a challenge coin I had bought for drone launch, which was probably a dumb purchase. So I do all this. I'm trying to get this course edited. We're about to move to Florida from Washington, D.C., because Florida is where all my family's from. I'm like, I'm never going to finish this thing. Like, recording videos takes so long. I'm bad at editing. I found somebody to do the editing, but then I'm like paying him. Then I kind of like ran out of money. And I'm like, crap, I got no money left. So I just didn't shoot the last couple videos. And this test was being released soon, and I really wanted to try to get it. I really want to try to get it out there as soon as the test was released. So there was another guy in the space who was doing stuff. He launched a similar course around the same time. And he had a bunch of people sign up for his. He was selling it for like $300 a pop, and he had 1,000 people sign up. And I was like, holy crap, this guy just made $300,000. I'm like, I'm going to launch mine, and I'm going to be a bazillionaire. I for real thought this. I gave away a drone in order to get an email list together. So I gave away a drone, I got an email list, and of like 5,000 people. Apparently 1,000 of them were like spam accounts, so I really had 4,000 real people. I was like, here's my plan. I'm going to get an email list. I got 4,000 people on here. I'm going to email them. Half of them are going to open. I don't know. Do you guys have any experience with email lists and email marketing? Tell me in the chat, because you'll know that is an absolutely ridiculous number that will never happen for the most part. These guys don't know who I am. I've never emailed them before, but I'm going to email them. 50% of the people are going to open, and 50% of the people are going to buy. So that's going to be my 1,000, sales, and I'm going to be crushing it, right? So I draft up my email. Some guy that was knew about what I was doing, he had a little bit more knowledge than me in marketing. He's like, David, I don't know if I would just like hit him trying to sell him something like on the very first email because they don't know who you are and all this stuff. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. It's fine. So I send out this email basically saying, hey, here's who I am. Here's this prep course. Buy my prep course. And that's about it. And it was pretty short. And I thought, all right, here we go. I remember sending the email, going to work at the FBI in Lake. There's like a little really tiny FBI office in Lakeland that I was still working at. And I was just waiting for that cash register to ring, man. I was just letting it. I was like, here we go, guys. It's going to roll in. I remember like texting my friend, just sent the email, man. I'm about to be rich. And absolutely nothing happened. Like if I could do the cricket noise right now or like the wah, 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 I would do that. It was a disaster. Nobody bought anything. I think I made 2 sales, like 2 sales, and it was for $99 each. So I had spent probably $20,000 to $30,000 developing this course, and I launched it, and it was like 2 sales for $99 each. And I was like super demoralized. I was probably depressed for like 2 months, or 2 weeks maybe, 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, I was so bummed. I was like, what do I need to do? And I was like, all right, I need to learn how to do branding, how to do marketing. I felt like the course was pretty good. And this is when I realized, and again, if you're going to write stuff down or write this down, you can have incredible content, right? I had good experts. I had good content. I felt like it was really good. But if you don't have the other stuff, so we're talking about NID, right? You need a network. So I got the network, got the people to do it for me, like to appear in it for me with credibility. Instructional design, course creation. The course was fairly easy to put together order-wise and outcomes-wise because it's just helping them pass a test. So I already kind of had an outline. That becomes a lot more difficult when you're designing a course with kind of an undefined goal, right? You're not helping them pass a test, but you're helping them achieve some other objective. And then D is distribution. That's like your marketing, like your distribution channels, how you're going to sell it, like marketing distribution. And that's where I sucked. That's where I had no experience. I did terrible. So I was like, what do I do? I was really bummed. I started, trying to think of all these different options, all these different angles I could take, who would buy it. And I felt at the time like I was just like, I just don't have anybody to go to who knows anything about, like, I mean, I could listen to podcasts, but I don't have anybody to go to and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? Like, why is this not working? Or what do I need to be doing differently? I just had no like person I could lean on for wisdom. Like I had my wife, but she doesn't know anything. She was a nurse. She doesn't know anything about marketing and internet sales and courses and all that stuff. So I just felt like, I'm willing to work hard. I just want somebody who's going to come tell me every day, David, today with your 2 hours of free time or whatever, do these things, right? And you'll be successful. That's all I wanted. But I just didn't have that. I don't know. Does anybody else that's building online courses feel that way? Like you just want someone to be able to tell you what to do, right? Like I don't know exactly what to do. I'm willing to do the work. I just want to know like what I need to do to get it to work, Let me know if you felt it before. That's how I was feeling. So I was Googling like online business coaches. And I was wanting like coaches for business, like online business. Anyways, I was Googling, I was Googling on a couple different places and I found this, so people are saying they felt like that. So I found this like coaching group. It wasn't specific to like online courses, but I had a conversation with the woman who runs it. She's like, yeah, we put you in groups of like 5 or 6 people. You meet weekly, you kind of keep each other accountable for your goals, sounding board, all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is great. So I joined that group. We met online once a week. And again, it wasn't necessarily online course focused or anything, but it was a huge help. It helped me just navigate stuff right. Like someone would come to me and say like, oh, hey, we should do this partnership. And I'm like, oh, I need this big legal document drafted up. And she could be like, no, I don't think you need that. Like you just do this, right? Just someone who is further ahead of me to help guide me. So that was crucial during that time to have like a group of people and just someone who's a little bit further ahead of me in business to help like pull me along. So I did that for about a year. That was 2017, right? And I got some numbers here, right? So 2017, I started doing some stuff. Actually, through that group, I got connected with someone who was really good at paid advertising. I was trying to figure some stuff out. I started doing some paid advertising on Google. It was working really well for a while. I started making money. I'm like, sweet. And then it all like broke and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I was like, gosh, I'm at the end of my rope. But luckily through this group, again, had a good network, that she hooked me up with, oh, hey, you should check out this other member. He's a guy who does a lot of like paid advertising, Facebook, Google ads, all that stuff. And I linked up with him. He still runs my paid ads till today. He's great. So that first year, just from that group, I was able to like push through going from like the same course at like basically zero sales. I launched it in 2016. I think I finished 2016 with maybe like a few $1,000s in sales, really trying to hustle affiliates and some other stuff. And then the next year we had $250,000 in sales and $83,000 in profit. That was 2017. I credit a large portion of that to that group I was in. Then 2018, right? 2018, I see Pat Flynn. Right? Again, I'm still following Pat Flynn. He's launching a mastermind group, the SPI Accelerator. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get in this. I quit my job in April of 2018, right? So I was making just enough money and I had saved enough where I was like, I'm going to quit my job. Let's do this. I quit my job. Very nerve-wracking. I apply to Pat Flynn's Accelerator group. Like ecstatic that I get accepted. It was like me and like 10 or 12 other people. I was like, sweet. But it was like a pretty large portion of like the money I was making at the time. But I was so convinced, like, man, if anybody can help me, I know Pat can help me. Because you're like, if somebody's done this before, it's so much easier for them. They can see things you can't see, and I'll be in this group with other people. Again, so I'm like big on that. So I joined that group. I'm still trying to build. I had only had one course this whole time for like 2 years, just focusing on that because it was like a side hustle. We added another course because somebody I had met through, actually this guy, one of the guys who did a lot of the video editing for my first course, we were talking. He happened to be a Hollywood editor. He was getting into drones. And so I was like, hey, a lot of people are asking me, like, what do I do now that I have my license? I want to learn how to do like aerial footage and things. And so we talked and it was like, hey, why don't you put a course together? Again, network. So I didn't teach the course. I identified, hey, I've got a small audience. Here's what people are wanting. I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. And so he had never built a course before and he didn't really done advertising before. And I said, listen, I've got the audience. the more distribution now, I've got to know how to do that stuff. I'll help you put the course together. I can do the copywriting. I can do all that stuff because I've been really working on myself and trying. And he's like, okay, sounds good. So we worked together. So like teamed up, expert, and then that's that instructional design, knowing how to take someone's expertise and extract it and structure it into a course that is easily digestible, and then someone can go through and be like, oh, wow, this was an awesome course. Because being an expert in something is and I get more into this in my free course that I have, but being an expert in something does not mean you're a good teacher. Usually the people who are the best in a topic are horrible teachers, but they have a lot of good knowledge that if with the right direction, they could package that into a nice course. But it takes a lot of coaxing, having worked with a lot of experts. Some are great communicators, some are not. So you really depends on where it is there. So I launched another course. That course did horribly. Like a really high refund rate. People were not happy with it. So I had to be like, hey, listen, we got to go back to the drawing board. So we scrapped that course, got some feedback, expanded the course, redid it all, and now that one's like our second highest selling course ever. I think total for Drone Launch Academy, we've done a little over $4.5 million in revenue over the life of the school, and that one's done over $1 million. That next one we added, right? So yes, we did that. I joined Pat Flynn's group. Transformative Experience, getting in there with 10 other people. I'm getting in there, I can be like, hey, here's what's happening. I don't know why this is working or this isn't working. And there's people in there who are good at SEO. They're good at, oh, you should pre-sell the course. I'm like, I should pre-sell it? What's this about? And so the next course I did, I ended up linking up with another guy who I ran into on Facebook. We kind of hit off a friendship. He did roof inspections and solar stuff with drones. I said, hey, let's make a course together. I'm getting better at this, linking up with people, making course thing. He said, sounds good. So he was in San Diego, so we go to San Diego, and from that my group with Pat, there was somebody else in there, and they're like, hey, you should pre-launch it, and they showed me how to do that. So I pre-sold this course. We sold, tens of thousands of dollars worth of courses before we had ever even made at all. So that was a bit of a strategy to kind of like teach it live and then go back and, or we launched it week by week after we had filmed it. So that gives you some budget to be able to put things together, which is nice. So I learned some of those lessons. I did that year with Pat Flynn. I have some pictures later that I'll show you. That was fun. Went to his conference and just got to know a lot of really great people, really great networking. And it really, every time I joined some of these groups and I try to level up, I will say it changed my life to be able to like do a lot of this stuff. I was working hard, reading books, taking courses on my own, doing that stuff. But it's hard to substitute somebody who can just like say, here's what I've done, or here's how I do it. And you're just like, oh, and you're able to just like know what to do. It's like the shortcut, right? So I do that. It was a 1-year program. It was awesome. Ended in 2019. 2019 was good. We're still launching. See, 2019 we did $950,000. 2018 we did $550,000 in revenue. And was able to pull in, and this is from my tax return. So, you're writing some stuff off. So the actual profit number is probably a little higher, but I'm able to write off things like all my computer equipment and some software and stuff. So my profit in 2018 was like 120, which is, hey, it's great. I'm living off that, feeding my family. 2019, again, Pat Flynn's group, crushing it. I got to 950,000. I wanted to crack $1 million, but I was so close. 950,000 in revenue, and then about 200 grand in profit. And that is like twice what I ever made at the FBI. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is possible. So that was awesome. I was in Pat Flynn's group, and then that was over. Ended up joining another mastermind group after that one, like coaching group, which was good, but that one was like 30 people. It was really hard to like develop relationships in that same kind of bond and direction. But I did get a lot of good direction from the person who was like leading the group. I had a couple issues with partners and stuff that came up, and he was able to walk me through that and a little bit kind of bring some external wisdom in. So that was really helpful. But we were launching more courses. So at this time we had, and I'm going to pull up my screen. I'm going to go to Drone Launch Academy and show you guys what we've got here. So you can kind of visualize it, right? I'm going to go to our courses page. I'm assuming that's cool that I can share my share my screen.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely. Cool. I'm just waiting for it to pop up there, and they'll throw it on.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So here's our courses, right? So I've got this prep course, which is our main course. I'll get to that in a minute. Drone Business Mastery is when we added. So aerial video A to Z is the one we launched in 2019. This is an aerial roof inspection pro. Launched that also. Aerial video A to Z 2018. This one we launched in 2019. That's a brand new one. We've got, actually, no, I need to go back here. Here's courses. So we've got The Roof Inspection Pro is what was launched. And then in 2020, we launched this Drone Business Mastery. Originally called it Drone to 1K. But Drone Business Mastery, where a lot of people were wanting to start their own drone service businesses. So we have this course, which is basically a culmination of other courses. Sorry, long sales page. Okay, so it's basically these 5 courses put into one program. So this was 2020. We're making a lot of courses. But look how many other people teach in this course. Let me just go down here. Sorry, these are all testimonials. All right. So I teach a little bit of it, like stuff that I already knew. I'm like, hey, listen, here's how to build a website, or here's some basic stuff. Like I was always the host. So it was almost like a panel course, right? But I went and I had started a podcast, and I had networked with other successful drone business owners. And so after I did that, now I had a little bit of a friendship with them. And I said, hey, listen, I'm going to teach this course. Would you be willing to contribute to it? And they're like, sure. So then I get this guy, he's a 6-figure drone business owner. This was an SEO person I knew. This was my tax accountant, another drone business owner, that they all specialize in something different. And they're all talking about, here's how I built my business. Here's how I get sales. This guy works for a insurance company. He agreed to come on and talk all about drone insurance. This was Dan Hindley. He's my Google Ads guy. Created a whole module on Google Ads for drone businesses. So as you can see, like the majority of this was taught by other people. But I was able to, again, leverage that network, leverage knowing how to put courses together and having the audience to where I could, bring them in. And of course I paid them, and they got, depending on what type of involvement they have, depends on how much they get paid and how that is structured. I'll go into more in that free course. But through that, in 2020, we were able to hit about $1.2 million in revenue and $300,000 approximately, I'm kind of rounding here, in profit. And again, I'm like, this is great. So we're still going, in 2021, again, revenue's even higher. I think we hit I'm still finishing up all my precise numbers, but hit about $400,000 in profit last year. So all this, and again, I'm still so I finished that one coaching program. I joined like a local Vistage group, which was helpful. Again, not so much for online courses, but when you're around people and you're bouncing ideas around, there was someone in that group. They ran a fitness studio, and they're like, David, are you going to run a Black Friday sale? And I'm like, no, I don't Black Friday sale. I'm going to do drone courses. Nobody's buying drone courses for Black Friday. She's like, you should really run a Black Friday sale. I'm like, that's stupid. And I'm like, whatever. So I did it, and we made a bunch of money. I think we ended up bringing in a few extra that year. I'm trying to remember exactly how much it was. It was at least 10 to 20 grand extra that I wouldn't have had just by sending out emails saying, hey, we're going to give this discount. We just basically bundled all the courses we had at the time, bundled them all together, gave like 55% off, and a bunch of people were buying them. And I would have never thought to have done that if it wasn't somebody else's input, me always putting myself around other business people, around people that had more experience than me. So I just want to that's such key. And this last year, Black Friday was the most sales we had ever done I think within a 2-week period, we did like $90,000 worth of sales. I mean, it was something insane. Now, again, some of that was split with other course creators and different deals we have. But personally, I think I made $40,000 in like a week or two from Black Friday. So, and again, that was all from that person's recommendation and just being involved in these groups. So it's pretty incredible how you can go from nothing and struggling. And there was at one point where I was in Pat Flynn's group. I'll talk about some more struggles too. I was in Pat Flynn's group. Sales were like going down. I think it was like an election year. Ads were getting really expensive. Sales were going down. I was really relying heavily on that prep course for most of my income. There was more competition coming into the space. And I was like, oh man, and I was really stressed out. I had 2 weeks left of money in my bank account because I was paying money to the Mastermind group. I had 2 weeks left. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I told my wife, I'm like, well, I better dust off the old resume. I was very nervous. But I was like, you know what? I can figure it out. You just have to have like unwavering delusional optimism in yourself sometimes. And so I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. I ended up doing a couple email promotions to my email list and some other stuff, generated enough money to give me another boost of cash. And we kept pushing forward, and it was just doing better and better and better. And then even in end of 2019, I thought our numbers were worse than they were. But I was really discouraged for some reason because, there was COVID and our numbers were down, and I'm just like, actually it was 2020. I was like, this is really demoralizing. I don't know if I want to keep doing this or what should I do. And again, kept pushing. In the next year, I made way more money than I had before. So if you're feeling kind of like really excited and then really kind of bummed, and you feel like you have this like roller coaster swing of emotions, that's really totally normal. Even if you start doing better, that's really normal. But it always really helped me to have someone else there to kind of lean on for support and encouragement, and say, hey, here's the path forward, here's the road forward, if you want to get there. So that's been pivotal in my life, and I've wanted to do something like this for a while, like teaching. I love teaching like this. I've kind of informally helped people over the years. There was someone, he's an author and illustrator of children's books and little novels and stuff. And he said, hey, I want to launch a course. He's been published with like Penguin, Random House, and like good big name publishers. But I guess that doesn't make like a ton of money depending on what kind of book deal you get. So he was talking to me. Someone had connected us, and he said, hey, David, I really want to launch an online course or a membership. I'm not sure how to go about it. Would you mind meeting me for lunch? So we had lunch. We talked for about 2 hours, and I kind of said, hey, if I'm in your shoes, here's what I'm doing. Here's the strategies that I'm using. Here's kind of the path that I would take if I were you. And to his credit, he went and he executed. He got stuff together, and he used this network instructional design distribution method where he went and he knew people in the industry already, because he was a little expert at his niche, but he was trying to help people who wanted to get published by big publishing houses. So he knew screenwriters and people at the publishing houses, and he kind of leveraged some of his existing network already. I had to kind of develop my network, and there's ways you do that through like having people on your podcast, or just sometimes you just cold call people, hey, can we chat, or cold email them, hey, can we chat? And they say, sure. People are more willing to talk than you know. So he got 10 people together to agree to kind of do this like 2-month or 3-month long program on how someone can write a book and get published by like a big publishing house. And he launched it. And he pre-launched. He hadn't even actually created the content. He just recruited the people, laid out the like outline of what he was going to be teaching and when, and he launched it. And he did $20,000 in sales that was on his like first try. And we had met a few times, and again he was like struggling, like, man, I was hoping for this, and I gave him again more advice, and then he launched it, and I was like pumped, because I'm like, sweet. So I want to see more and more of that, and I've, again, helped people off and on over the years, but I'm still full-time focused on Drone Launch Academy. Every day I'm in there, I'm running it, I'm trying to grow. We have plans for this year. We're going to be launching new things, so that takes up most of my time. However, I keep telling myself, I'm going to start doing some stuff in the online course world, or helping people there. But the problem is, I didn't want to just make like another course about online courses. I feel like that's kind of getting old, and like there's other people out there that like, let me sell you my course on how to make online courses. I just didn't want to be that guy. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. Some of them are great courses, but I don't want to just be like another kind of Me Too thing, right? So I thought, well, shoot, what am I good at and what would be fun? So I thought, you know what? I would love to do some like one-on-one coaching, and then this is why I have the free course, because honestly, coaching mastermind groups were the biggest thing that helped me over my entire going from zero to $4.5 million in sales, or this last year $1.4 million in sales just in the last year, and our goal this year is to do $2 million in sales. So I'm like, all right, cool, I want to give that to you guys, because just the accountability that it comes with, the acceleration you get just by having someone else tell you what to do and how to get there, is invaluable. So with that said, everybody that's here gets access to the free course I'm putting together. I'm working on it now. I should have the content in there by the end of next week. So there's a link around there for that. But for those of you who are like, I really want, I've got an online course that I'm ready to start, and you're just struggling, you're like, I just want someone to help me. And again, I know we just met. I know this is, you're just hearing me probably for the first time talk about online courses. But I just want to give you this opportunity, because I'm starting something called, I go by Davey Gravy too. That was my sister's nickname for me when I was a kid. And I was just kind of like, my coworkers always called me Davey, and I'm in other groups that call me Davey. So I went out and I'm like, I'm going with Davey Gravy. So I'm starting something called the Davey Gravy Accelerator program. It's going to be 6 months. I'm going to go ahead and, Jonah, I'm going to throw this on the screen here. All right, Davey Gravy Accelerator program, right? So it's going to be 6 months, all right? And I'm only going to do 5 people, because I was trying to think, how much time do I have? And I can't do a big group, especially if I really want to do one-on-one, so I can really, really help people. And I'm only going to do 5, because more than that, it's just going to pull me away too much from my main business. So I'm just looking for 5 people who want help with this, right? So here's what it's going to entail, and I put this together, right? So number one, this is going to be a 6-month program, one-on-one and group coaching for online course entrepreneurs looking to build their way to 7 figures, right? So number one, program deals. There's going to be like 5 components. The first thing is we're going to do a full day in person with me. So that'll be either in March, or I'm going to start this in March. So either in March and April, you can come down to Florida. I'll pay for your hotels. I'll book us out a conference room in Tampa. I'm in Lakeland, which is about 45 minutes outside of Tampa, so I don't make you drive to Lakeland per se. I'll get a nice conference room in Lakeland. I've already got contacts in with this place called Armature Works on the top here. It's really cool. It's got like restaurants and different things, so they have some conference rooms there. And then Embark Collective is a partner co-working space for where I am, where I have offices in Lakeland. So in this one-day in-person workshop, or one day in person with me, we'll break down your entire business. What do you have going on? Where are you? What's our strategy moving forward? How can we grow it? How can we like blow this up and push you on the path to 7 figures? So come down to Tampa. We'll spend all day together. And when you leave, you will have like a concrete plan of, hey, here's how I'm moving forward. And over the next 6 months, here are my targets. Here's what we're going to do, right? So that's what we're going to do. That's our one day, either in March or April. And each person is going to get that. I'm going to do a full day with each person. That's why I'm only doing 5. All right. Second is ongoing over the 6 months. We'll do a one-on-one for 1 hour every other week. So about twice a month, every other week. And in these one-on-ones, I'm going to do accountability. Hey, did you do what you said you were going to do from the last time we talked? We're going to talk about strategy. If you have like, hey, David, I'm trying to write a sales page. I don't know what to do. Cool. We'll use our time. We'll dive into the sales page. I'll go through. I've studied a lot of copywriting because that's so crucial for online businesses. So we'll dive into that, or I'll help you put your email funnels together. Basically, we'll have an hour to work together, make sure you're locked in on your goals, get all the input you need from me to help you push stuff forward. I'll try to connect you with any contacts that I have if you're looking for video editors or other people to help in your business. I'm an open book. My goal is to make you successful. So that'll be our 1 hour one-on-one every other week with 5 people. Then on the off weeks, on the other weeks, we'll have a group call. So the 5 people that we'll meet together. So it'll be 6 of us. We'll take another hour. We'll go through. We'll do hot seats. So hey, how are you doing? What problems do you have? What are your wins? It's always fun to share that. This is where I got a lot of benefit in my groups, is seeing what other people were doing, learning from others. It's huge, right? So that'll be every other week. So one week you have a one-on-one. The next week we'll do a group call. We'll set up a private Slack group. So, if we're in between meeting or whatever, you want to share some files, or hey guys, can you look at this? Or what do you think about this? We can have that there. And you can always have access. And this is what I'm really excited about. So I was going to show you, yes. So one thing I was really excited about when I did Pat Flynn's group. So here's me and Pat Flynn down here. That's, several years ago when I was wearing glasses. We went up to San Diego. He rented this like big house. This is the group up there at the top. We all like hung out. If you look at the bottom left, we had these like hot seats where we would dive into each other's businesses. We each took turns. We'd have dinner together. We spent 3 days, like 2 nights, 3 days, just hanging out, becoming friends. It was like a blast. Probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. So I'm like, if I ever did a group, I want to do that. And that's what we're doing. So I've already booked a beach house in Clearwater Beach, Florida, June 10th through the 12th. And I see some questions, and I will get to the questions. We'll do Q&A. I'll stay as long as you want. We'll do a 2-night, 3-day retreat in Clearwater, where we're going to do the same thing. We'll dive into your businesses. In June, we'll talk through everything, and we'll still have our one-on-ones and our group calls afterwards, right? So that's it, 1 through 5, right? It's a full day, one-on-one over Zoom. The total price is $10,000 for the full 6 months. And if you're like, David, I can't do that. I'm not at that level. That's fine. Start with the free course. Work on that. But if you're someone who's ready to invest and you're ready to like grow your business, honestly, I would have paid this in a heartbeat. I actually paid a lot more than this when I was doing my coaching stuff. And if I don't 5x this for you when we work together, I'm like, I've probably failed you. Okay. So the thing is, you can do this. We can work together for in the first month. If you decide David's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because I know we've just met, right? So if you decide that, no problem. You go. I'll give you full refund if you apply and I accept you, and then we get started together. And you decide it's not for you, no hard feelings. I'll give you the money back. You have 1 month to kind of work with me and figure that out. But it's $10,000. That covers the retreat. It covers the lodging for your one-on-one, and I'll do all the food at the retreat as well. This is our group calls every other week, our one-on-one calls together for 10 grand over 6 months, and I'm hopefully going to push you to 7 figures. So I'm going to tell you how to do this real quick, or how to kind of get started if you're interested. Number one, if you're interested in this, go to, and I think Jonah can put this link up somewhere, but if you just go to calendly.com/Davey Gravy, be careful how you spell Davey Gravy, it's DAVEYGRAVY, calendly.com/Davey Gravy, just book a 15-minute call with me, like no pressure or anything. If you're just like, I want to find out more about this, see if I'm a good fit, whatever, cool. I've opened up slots in my calendar a little bit over the weekend, from today until the end of the day, Monday. There's some spots. Grab a spot, book a call with me. When you book at the call, it'll ask you, I think, 3 or 4 questions just about your business, so I can kind of understand. That way when we get on a call, I can say, hey, listen, this is a great fit. I can definitely help you explode your business. Or I might see it and be like, I'm not good here. Like if it's like e-commerce or like physical products, I'm just not going to be very helpful. So I'm not going to do something where I'm not very confident that I could blow it up for you and help you easily be on your way to a 6-figure income. But that's going to require you to do work too, right? Like I can give you all the advice in the world. We can work together. But if you're not out there executing and doing it, then it's going to be tough. But I believe in you, and people who are willing to invest will do the work. All right, and then chat with me to see if you're a good fit for the program. And if you decide, hey, this sounds great, I want to do it, and I look at your business and say, hey, it looks like I could help you for sure, then we'll go for it. Again, no pressure, but just I want to find 5 people who want to do this, who are willing to do it, and I can take enough time away from my full-time job to do that. So we only have 5 spots. So the link is there. If you want to do that, go ahead. First 5, once I find 5 people that are qualified, I'll close it up. And we'll see how, and I might offer it again in the future. But for now, this is all I'm doing. So you're the first group I've talked to about this. So you've got first dibs. If you want to do that, go ahead and book a spot. So that's the link. It'll be up there. Happy to do Q&A now. So I'm going to close this. And Jonah, if you want to pop up. So I see one question in here, which is, what is my typical profit split with the experts?
Well,
and then what? Go
Sorry
ahead.
to interrupt, David. Just real quick before we get to that, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew the link to the free course is in the description. It's also pinned to the top in the comments, and I did drop the Calendly. It's in the comments and it's in the description there as well.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew where to grab those.
Nice.
Yeah, and please drop questions in the chat now. We have David for a bit longer. I know it takes a second for those to come in, so we're not ignoring you if you type them in. Just give us a second there. And David, just as far as the free course goes, can I ask you a couple of questions before we dive into Q&A?
For sure. Go for it.
Does that include any sort of community or way to reach out to other people and all of that? First off, I love how much you're talking about working with other people. It's so easy to look at these like figureheads of these companies and everything and just imagine they do it all on their own, and it's intimidating as hell. So it's it's so cool. But is there a community that when you join the course you can be part of? I just want you to like reaffirm that, or what that's like.
Gotcha. Yeah, so right now, again, I'm just kicking all this stuff off. So I'm putting this course together. It's free to go through. There's no like community in there right now. However, you're welcome. I'm pretty active on Instagram, on like DMs and stuff. So if you go the Davey Gravy on Instagram, so if you go on there, you can hit me up. I'm happy to like answer questions as needed. For there, if you've got like specific questions or want some advice on certain things, I'm probably not gonna. If you send me like, hey David, dissect my whole sales page and help me write an email funnel, I'm probably not gonna do that. But if you got like quick questions, I'm happy to like field questions. So no, for right now it's just that content. But I plan on as time permits, adding more content. Maybe one day there will be some type of community. But right now we're just starting with some free content there, and then this coaching program.
Love it. Well, and I appreciate even just you calling out where people can reach out to you and stuff. So that's perfect.
For sure.
But yeah, didn't want to throw you off the rails, but let's dive into these questions. They're great. Jason was asking, what is your typical profit split with the experts? And I know this is very contentious when you're starting out your first course, because it's very easy to go like, let's do 50-50.
And that's what I did. So that's what I did at first. All right. And then I started to see, again, I wish I had my iPad to like draw here, and I'm going to put this stuff in the course. So if you go to that free course and you see where I'm talking about like network with the right people, I'm going to have my iPad, I'm going to do all my drawings and stuff. But think about a successful, I'm going to answer the question, but just need to lay some groundwork to make it a little bit more clear. Think about a course, a successful course, like a wheel with spokes, right? There are many factors that go into what makes a course successful. From somebody who's on the outside looking in, or maybe when you're just first thinking about it, it's tempting to think that, oh, if I'm really good at something, or if I have a lot of knowledge about something, I can make a course and make money with it, which is like kind of true with a lot of caveats, right? So, a lot of, I'll see ads, and I know they're not trying to be like misleading or anything, but sometimes people can think the wrong thing. They're like, see, if you have knowledge, you should be making 6 to 7 figures with an online course, which is like, cool. Knowledge about the topic is like a very small piece of your success. So I think I wrote it out. I was writing a little bit the other day. It's like flour in a cake. So unless you're going to say flourless cake, but a normal cake, sure. You can't have cake without flour, right?
Right.
Like if you pull the flour out from the cake, you basically have nothing. So to me, that's like the topic expertise. It's like an essential ingredient, but no one's just going to start eating flour. That's disgusting. No one's going to go to a restaurant and order flour on a menu. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't taste good by itself. No one wants it. It's basically useless unless you're a flour farmer or whatever, like a wheat farmer. So where you can do is all the other pieces, sorry, not you, but like the other pieces that are needed, right? You need eggs, you need oil, you need water, you need sugar, you probably need cream if you're doing some like frosting, ganache frosting, whatever. So you need all these other pieces to make it good, a sellable cake that people want, right? So, and then you have to know how hot the oven needs to be, how long to put it in there for. You got to find someone who owns an oven. Like there's all these other pieces. So, it took me a while to understand. I used to just think, online course is just like knowledge. And so if I have a little bit of marketing capabilities and this guy's got knowledge, piece of cake, that's a 50-50 split. And it's not 50-50, okay? What the unique skills, well, it can be 50-50 in certain instances, right? So what the unique skills are that makes a course successful is, I would say, knowing how to first is my I, right, of NID, is that instructional design. Knowing how to say, okay, I'm making a course. A lot of people, they just start telling you information in the course and it kind of just goes nowhere. And that's what we ended up doing in our first course that I said just sucked and we just killed it off. I'm going to teach you, what about this? I'm going to teach you a little bit of this. They're just throwing out knowledge and that's not, like, people can't absorb that. People want like an outcome. So you have to start at the end and go, all right, like I always tell people, this is your course promise. You need to have the start with the course promise. By the end of this course, you will be able to X, and that matters because Y, and just write that out. If you can't write that out clearly, you should not take another step with your course. So by the end of this course, you should, so for my course, right, like, hey, by the end of this course, you'll know how I took my business from 0 to 7 figures, the strategies I used, and you'll feel equipped to get started on the journey yourself, whatever. So then, as I'm making the course, I can think, does this, what I'm putting in here, does this help people achieve this course promise, right? So anyways, as you're thinking about all the different elements, I'll answer the question. Now, when I first started off, I said, hey, let's do 50-50 split, right? And we did that, and they threw some content in there. I tried to do the marketing and the copywriting and the distribution and all that, sales stuff. And it went okay. We split it a little bit. And then, it's a lot of work. Once the course is created, that part's done. It's a lot of work to like build the trust with people online, get an audience, like create lead magnets, get affiliates, either get organic traffic or get paid traffic, have a platform like a YouTube channel or a podcast. Like, that is so much more work to me than the course. I mean, it's time intensive to make the course, but once it's done, it's done. The other stuff doesn't stop. So I did 50-50 split at first. And so with that first course creator, actually what happened was he was more and more interested in online courses. And he's like, hey man, I want to help out more with the marketing too. If I do some of my own marketing, could we change the splits? And I said, sure. So he like dove in and learned how to do Facebook ads, YouTube ads, all this stuff, totally changed his course material. He got like really good at some of the really important pieces. So now our agreement is like, he has his own affiliate code. So if he brings something in from his affiliate code, so he'll run his own ads, he does his own webinars, he's a video editor, so he films it all, he records it, like does everything. So basically he's kind of like become somewhat of a partner in the course. So he gets like 90-something% if it comes from his affiliate code, because he's paying for his own ads and paying all that stuff, right? Because he's bringing all the other ingredients, right, of the cake to bear, right? So he gets like 90 90% of the total, and then I cover the credit card fee. So really, I get like 7%. But I don't really do anything, so it's for that course, so that's fine. And then if I sell that course to my audience, we do a 50-50 split still, because that was our original agreement. Then fast forward to something like that drone business mastery course I showed you, where I had like 10 different instructors in it. I basically said, okay, I had done 30 podcast episodes at that time, interviewing all different types of people that had done successful drone businesses. And I got the transcripts for them all. I printed it all out in this huge binder. I booked an Airbnb for like 2 or 3 days, and I locked myself in there, and I just read everything, and I'm like, what are the common threads through all this? If I was going to say, hey, listen, here's how to build a drone business like these 30 other people did, like, what's the common theme, right? And so I mapped it out, and I got the common stuff, and I said, okay, I want people to go from 0 to here, and like what's the path to get there? What did all these people follow? So I basically designed a course. Again, I had never started a drone business in my life. I didn't make money from drones, any of this stuff, but I'm like, this is what people want. That I found out from listening to my audience. They want a course on drone business. I'm going to build a course on how to do a drone business. But then I thought, well, I've never done a drone business. Nobody's going to listen to me. I don't even know what to say. You know what I mean? So I studied all these other people who had. I said, hey, here seems to be the path, right? And then I went to some of those most successful people on there, and I said, hey, listen, I took a different approach. It wasn't, hey, you want to make a course together and we'll split stuff? You know what I mean? I was like, listen, will you consult with me on this to review the curriculum? Like, I'll kind of tell you what I want to do. Review the curriculum, help like write some stuff, appear in the videos, but you have one piece of this big pie. Because if one person is creating all the course content, they'll probably feel a little bit more like ownership over the product, depending on what they're doing, right? If they're doing the video editing. If you're doing all, but I had my own cameras. I had my own video editors. I already had the framework. I was just plugging people into different parts of the framework that I had met, who I knew. Okay, this person's good at this part. You teach this. You teach this. And it becomes a little bit more disjointed when you have so many different people, but I think it works together. So for those people, I just paid them a consulting fee. And at this point, I knew that I already had a pretty decent audience, and I'm like, shoot, I can pay some money I can launch this and make pretty good money. So I think I paid them between $100 and $200 an hour or something like that for their time. And they just billed me hourly. And so we would have like a planning call. We basically took an hour, and I said, just tell me everything you know. Like, dump it on me. How would you do this? How would you do this, right? And I'm like writing it down. I recorded our call because I'm the expert at taking all that jumbled information and massaging it into like a outcome-based course, because I had gotten good at that. And so I would pay them for that time, and then I would go back, I'd outline it, I'd say, hey, here's what I think it looks like, here's the outline, and I'd send that to them, and they'd say, that looks good, maybe change this, cool, done. Then we would teach it live, recorded, and then after I did it live with everybody, I pre-launched it live. I think I made $35,000 just pre-selling it, teaching it live, and I think my instructor cost was like 10 grand, 10 or 12 grand, something like that, between like 10 instructors. And so I made money day one, pre-launching it like that. And so I had all these different instructors. We filmed it live, or we recorded it live just over Zoom. And then I went and actually flew to each one of them with camera gear. That was a little intense, but I flew all around the country filming the nice version of it. With that, we would like put through like video editing and stuff like that. It's like the pretty course, I call it. And I paid them for that time too. So on one end of the spectrum, when someone's responsibility is to just like consult, look at curriculum, show up, record, leave, like I did with that Part 107, like the test prep course, I probably would have just paid those guys a consulting fee and kind of been done with it. You know what I mean? Because they were just contributing a piece of it, right? And then after that, their responsibility is done. They don't have to do customer support, marketing, whatever. But if one of these instructors wants to say, oh, I've got a little bit of an audience, I'd like to pitch this I'll make them an affiliate, and I'll give them a cut of any sales they bring into that course on top of whatever I paid them as a consultant. But you have to pay people based on the value they're bringing to the cake, you know what I'm saying? And so accurately knowing what goes into the cake helps you parse that out. And I figured that out over 5 years, like, hey, you know what, 50-50 is a bad deal for me. And it's bad for them too, because then at the end of the day, when I go back to my courses and I say, all right, it's time to push a course to my email list, which course am I going to pick, right? The course that I get 100% of the profit, or the course where I keep 50% of the profit after fees and after this stuff? I don't consciously think, oh, I'm going to not promote that course. Like, I'm not trying to screw anybody. I'm not trying to be like that. But you just naturally tend to like, okay, I need to maximize profit. Let's let's put some effort into this funnel or this course, right? So that's what kind of ends up happening. So the most recent course we did was a course on drone mapping and modeling, which basically more like data engineering stuff with drones. Again, I know nothing about this, but I ended up meeting a guy, and through some mutual connections, we ended up talking. Not on the first date. On the first date, you're like, let's make a course together. But like, we got to know each other a little bit, and I had him like on my podcast. You like get to know people. I had him on my podcast. He contributed a little bit to another course as just like the consultant. And then I was like, hey man, people really are interested in this. Would you be interested in doing this with me? He said, sure. So I knew we would make it. I knew this was like a really high demand course. He was a very like good expert in that field, like very credible. Because I always look at like, can I sell this person? You know what I mean? Like, what's your background? What are your credentials? Who have you worked for? Something. Can I get other people excited to learn from this guy? So I'm trying to like feel it out. Like, okay, he's worked for some big name companies. He's made a lot of money doing this. So like, I need to have stuff that I can like beef up and tout. And he's like, he has no idea how to do any of this stuff. And like, so we'll do a webinar together, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like for this webinar, here's what I need. I need stories that illustrate this, this, and this. Tell me some stories. You know what I mean? I just have them like talk to me, like a talk show, right? We do this in the planning phase, like talk to me, and then I'm like, cool. All right, that story will go good here. Here's the point we're gonna make. Here's how we're gonna do this, and then we'll do the webinar together. And we'll rehearse it and stuff, and then like he knows what to say when, and then I'll do the pitch at the end. And so I paid him 20 grand for that. So he was the only person going to be teaching this course. So I'm like, all right, I need to do something a little bit more for him, because it's not like he's just got a piece. Like he needs to design all the curriculum. He needs to be the sole teacher, all this stuff. So I paid him a lot more. I just said, how about we do a flat fee of 20 grand? I'm estimating like 100 hours worth of time. And then I think I gave him 10% of all the revenue, like gross revenue, for 12 months after the launch date. So he had a little bit of incentive to kind of like, promote a little bit, or just kind of give him a little bit of, right. I didn't want him to feel cheated on the upside, like when we launch it, right? So I wanted to give him a little piece of that too. So that was the deal we made with him, and that course has gone well. I think we've done 6 figures with that course. Not quite. We've launched it twice, so we've done a little under 6 figures with that course alone. So anyways, so that's kind of my thoughts on paying experts, partnering with experts.
That's a masterclass, and that it's so tricky though to figure that out and know, especially when you're starting out. It sounds like you learned an immense amount with the first couple of courses and all of that. But I also want to highlight, it sounds like at this point you're willing to be creative in what that looks like.
Yeah.
So there isn't like a concrete blueprint for this is what's worth this. You can figure it out and work with someone to see what makes sense. But I'm also hearing, don't undervalue the work as the person hosting the course, doing the marketing and all of that. Don't undervalue and let someone come in and take 50% without really considering that.
Because unless that person is planning on learning a ton about marketing and course creation and all that stuff, they're going to profit an additional extra $0 from their knowledge without you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you can come to the table and say, hey, listen, I'm going to do all that extra work for you, right? So maybe at first, maybe you need to do a 50-50 deal because maybe you don't have a big audience. Like maybe your eggs and oil and all that stuff isn't that convincing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe you're just like, but I'm willing to do the work. So maybe we'll do 50-50 split. So maybe do that for the first one. But then as you build an audience, like you own those assets. You own the email list. You own the website. You own that stuff. So now you have more leverage to be like, hey, listen, dude, we do a course together. I can sell it really easily, and you can give them some type of cut if you want. But I just noticed the profit stuff. It's a lot of headache too, just admin wise. I'm calculating, all right, what ad spend did we do? Okay, and it's the fees, affiliate fees, right. And then like every month you're doing calculations. I have to pay them out on PayPal manually. It's kind of like, is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know. So that's why I'm just like, listen, you don't have to worry about ad spend. You don't have to worry about whatever. We'll just do a smaller percentage of gross profit, and then you can do that plus your fixed fee.
Well, and it does have like those little things like being able to set up alternative affiliate links and stuff.
Sure.
Helps to figure that. Yeah. That's just, I appreciate you taking so long to answer that, because there are so many nuances, and it's easy to, an early creator, to think there's like an industry standard.
Yeah, and I see there was like 1, 2, 3 people wanted to know the same exact thing too. So
right. Well, and I did want to tag on, because Trish had kind of a second part of that, which was the money split, but then also creative ways to attract experts. So money is one aspect, but if you don't have a huge audience, if you don't have necessarily, you don't feel you have the clout yet, How do you
Yeah.
kind of convince someone to get on your side aside from the money? Because it's also their reputation and image on the line, so they want to make sure
Sure.
they're working with someone who knows their knows their stuff.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a balance, right? You always have to think, what would make this person like want to work with me, you know? And so I never typically ask, like if you come right out of the gate and ask them, hey, you want to make a course with me? They're probably gonna say no because they don't know who you are, you know? And they're like, what was this guy? What is this? Again, I'm probably saying this because I'm a Pat Flynn, pupil, but like starting a podcast was one of the best things I ever did. And I started a podcast about drone business. And all I did was interview drone business owners. The podcast is called Drone to 1K. And I said, hey, here are people's journeys who were able to eclipse that 1K mark per month. And some people are making tons of money. Some people are making just over $1,000 a month with the drone business. And so it's a lot easier to say to someone, hey, listen, that you meet, or let's say you have a little bit of an email list, you might hey, I'm looking to interview people who have this type of success or whatever. You can find them on LinkedIn or Facebook, or, just you gotta keep your eyes out. Like, okay, who would be a good person to talk to? And generally, if you message someone and say, hey, listen, I read this a little bit about you, or I saw this on your Instagram, looked really cool, looks like you're doing good with your drone business. I've got this podcast where I'm interviewing people about this. I would love to have you on as a guest. Would you consider doing that? And most of the time, I only had one person say no, and they only said no because like, I want to do it later because I'm trying to develop some stuff I'd love to pitch. And I'm like, okay, it's great, but they've been telling me that for like 2 years. But almost everybody else is like, oh, that's cool because you're saying like, hey, I want to feature you, I want to highlight you, right?
Right.
And you do, because that's good content for your audience. But it also aligns you with another expert, right? So when someone's listening, they're listening to you and that expert. And then basically all a podcast is, hey, do you mind if I talk to you for an hour and record it? And so you end up talking to them. And this does require you to at least be able to have a conversation with someone for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. Right. But I feel like most people are there or can get there, or they're like, it doesn't have to be the world's best podcast. And to be honest, it doesn't even matter if anybody listens to it. You're doing the podcast to connect with people. Now, you want people to listen to it because if more people that listen to it, the easier it is to convince someone else to be on it, right? If it's more
but
legit.
the networking is huge.
But just being like, hey, can I get you on my podcast? And I'm like, oh, sure. And so when you do that, and then I always try to like be nice. Like I have printful.com. It's like you can send like on-demand t-shirts. I'm like, hey man, thanks so much for coming on, or girl or whatever, and like, hey, let me send you a t-shirt as a thank you. They're like, oh, thanks. So I send them a t-shirt in the mail. Sometimes I'll write them a note, put it in the mail too, or like, you just try to do little stuff to be like, hey, I really appreciate that. When you have the podcast, try to promote it and stuff. And then from then on, like now they follow you. I follow them on Instagram. If they do something, I'm trying to keep in touch. Not like anything malicious, not like, oh, I've got this sinister plan, but like now you just have a new friend in the space, And so then when it comes time, and it's not even like, oh, I really want to have this person on my podcast so I can do this. Like, it's not necessarily quite that calculated, but just making a practice of going out and just like interviewing people in my space and all this stuff, you just end up building these connections who happen to be experts. And then when you're like strategizing and thinking, what's next? Oh, I should do a course on this. All of a sudden now you think, oh, who do I know like that? Oh, I've got like 4 or 5 people I know who I could ask about that, And then you can kind of feel them out to see if they want to make a course or how that might work, or, so podcasts are big, but you can do the same thing if you have a YouTube channel. Even if you have a website, I've done this and said, hey, listen, I would love to write an article on how to build a 7-figure business if you're not an expert, right? And if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm trying to write an article on how to build a business without being an expert, could I interview you? Does we do a Zoom call, record it, I'll do a little write-up and I'll post the video? I would say sure, 10 out of 10 times. You know what I mean? Right. And so now that person's talked to me and they could keep in touch, and now they know me, without going, hey, I'm looking for experts to be in my online course. Can you please, all that stuff. So that's how I would do it. You got to find another reason to get in touch and to get to know them first, and featuring them some way on your YouTube channel, podcast, whatever outlet you can is the best way to do that. If you can't think of any of that stuff and they're at least local, you could say, hey, do you mind if I took you out for a cup of coffee for 30 minutes? You got to be respectful of people's time. You don't want to be like, can I talk to you for 6 hours? But like, hey, can I just pick your brain for half an hour? I would love to do it. I'm trying to understand more about this or whatever. But that feels more like a one-way exchange. That feels like I want something from you, and you're really not going to get much back other than maybe feeling good about helping me. But if you say, I'd like to write an article about this, You're saying, I want to try to like push your expertise to other people. I want to try to make you look good. I want to try to set you up as an expert, and that's a much easier sell in my
Right.
opinion. So
Well, and I love you're not. I've heard so many creators say this because the question just keeps coming up. Why would anyone who has an audience or who is an expert give a damn about me? But I've heard creator after creator say like, you greatly underestimate how much people like to talk about themselves.
oh
So
yeah, sure. And you know, and like people have their own motives too. Like, you know,
yeah,
everybody, listen, eyeballs are money, right? Like if you can get in front of more people, even if it's a few people, like most people who know what they're doing, they're going to take that opportunity, unless somebody, you've done something like piss somebody off and they just don't
right,
want anything to do or whatever. They think it's
right,
going to be a bad reputation move or something. Like I know a guy, he was on my podcast because he was like on my email list. He had like a smaller drone business. He reached out to like a top drone YouTuber guy who's got like 100,000 subscribers. For drones, that's a lot, you know,
yeah,
all this stuff, right? Hey, can you be on my podcast? This is a tiny podcast. And it's not even all about drones. It's about like different random stuff. And the guy's like, sure, no problem. Came
right,
on, gave him a ton of advice. Now they're friends. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you're not going to get like Tony Robbins on your podcast, but like, you know, people who are like ahead of you for sure. Yeah.
And you might get Tony right.
Yeah, shoot your shot, man. You
should.
never know. You never know. But I'm not making any
No.
promises, but I'm saying, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. David, we have to wrap up for time here.
Sure.
But thank you so much. And I want to remind everyone this is a free course, so I can't think of anything you could possibly lose. The link is in the description, it's in the comments. And if you want to work directly with David, there's that Calendly link as well. Thank you all so much for being here and taking time out of your day. Please hop in the comments. Thank David for his time. You've given us a lot of rad information, especially just diving deep into those questions about pricing are so valuable for early creators. I know, because we all need help on the expert side. And if you had a good time today, please like and subscribe to the Discover channel. We're consistently bringing creators like David out here to share their expertise, help us all grow our business and our passions. And before we wrap up, David, I did want to steal you for one more question, which
Sure.
you're someone you've been doing this for a while, but you're also still doing so much. And I know there's kind of this sense that like once you make a course, it does its own thing, but that's not true. You have to keep marketing. You have to keep being on top of all these things. And you seem like someone who's pretty good at time management. So for all of us who want to do all these things, and you may not think it, but like
No,
clearly if you're able to keep up all these things, you're able to somewhat at least put everything in
Sure.
a box and figure out when to use it. So for all of us who want to aspire to have multiple courses and have multiple business options out there in all of this, do you
Yeah.
have some advice on how to know when to focus on what aspect of it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's super important. That's something I struggle with today, right? Like it's like focus, right? Because I found it a lot easier to focus. And again, I'm trying not to go on forever, but like I thought about this topic a lot. When I was working for the FBI, I had about 2 hours on the side, let's say, to work on this because I had kids and a wife and stuff. So I would say I tried to start doing it at nighttime, but I found I was already pretty worn out from work at that point. It was, you know, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna devote my best hours to myself, and then I'll give the rest to the government. So I said from 7. Sorry, I was a public servant, but that's what I did. So from 7 to 9 a.m. I would work on my own stuff, and then I'd go to work at 9, and I'd work till about 5 or 6. So my work day was about 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. roughly, which is it's not that bad unless you're weak. I'm just kidding. So 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And during that time, I got a lot done because mentally I knew I've only got 2 hours. This is all I've got. Go time. I was able to kind of lock in on specific things. I noticed once I quit my job, now I've just got all day to do whatever I want, which is a beautiful thing, and I love the freedom. But it's hard to be that focused and locked in when you just your brain in the back of your brain, you have all day. You know what I mean? So I think here's the first thing, and I'm a big procrastinator. One thing that I struggle with that is difficult not to do is to go in too many different directions at the same time, because you won't be effective in any of it, and you will get frustrated, and you'll feel a lot of internal dissonance, and you'll feel like you don't want to approach it because it's, at least this is me. Oh, this is it's confusing. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's uncomfortable. I'm going to distract myself with something else, Instagram, whatever, But if you're very clear about like, here's what I'm going to do today, and I only had one course for 2 years. I only focused on one course for 2 years. And I think a lot of problem is people will do a course and they're like, oh, I just need to add more courses. No, like you need to think on one course and stay focused on that course. And it's a lot of work up front, but I will say I do nothing anymore. That course still makes me a ton of money. I think it's done like $2.5 million in sales, that Part 107 course, the prep course. I do nothing on it anymore. And not because nothing needs to be done, but now I make money, so now I have a team. So that's the way you can multiply your time, is with a team. So first thing I did was hired a customer service person. So now they take off the emails. Next thing I did was I hired someone to help me with email marketing. And I hired someone who didn't really know anything about email marketing, but I knew a lot about email marketing. So I trained them for like a year and slowly gave them more and more stuff. So now they can do email promotions without me, and they can do setup stuff without me and software stuff without me. So you slowly have to start. That was a hard transition for me, is figuring out what to offload, when to offload it. It's hard because you're used to keeping all the money. Now you got to share the money, but there's no way to make more money without sharing the money. It's like, it's a hard, like, and I still have to learn that, right? To like grow, you got to spend. That's a big thing. Like, especially, ads, people, whatever, like they try to minimize their expenses so much, but it's like, sometimes you got to push the chips in a little bit. As long as you're spending on the right things, don't buy a bunch of challenge coins like I did. That's not going to build your business. But like, if you do other things, staff, ads, those are all good. So I would say stay focused on, if you can, one course, one funnel, one offer, until you get that thing like making some cheddar. And until then, try not to get sidetracked with other stuff. And even doing what I'm doing now, I have gone back and forth so many times because I'm just like, I should just stay focused on Drone Launch Academy, just build that. But I've been wanting to do this for a while. My business coach now is like, yeah, David, you can do that. He's like, because it'll keep you sharp on your own stuff. Because if you're coaching other people, you're going to be thinking about how can I help them. It'll keep you sharp studying.
Right.
And then you can apply that to your own stuff too. So I'm like, okay. So I've given myself permission after 5 years to like split off onto a little side project and branch out. And that's why I'm like, I'm only doing 5 people, because 5 people, that's 5 hours in a week, 1 week, 1 hour in another week, 6 hours every 2 weeks, and then maybe some stuff in the middle, 5 to 10 hours. I'm like, I could do that, But yeah, one focus. I don't know if you've read the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Great book.
Yeah. Yep.
Deep Work by Cal Newport, another essential read. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Like, just read those 3 books and you'll have everything you need to know.
Yeah. Well, I love
about focus.
You've been working for 5 years at this, and so it's so valuable. Yeah, that hone in and focus for so much time to optimize is so valuable to hear.
Yeah.
David, thank you so much. It's always a blast to have you. Appreciate having you. Hope we have you in the future again. And thank you, everyone,
thanks, Jonah,
for watching. Yeah, it's been such a good time. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.